Hey, hey, how y'all doing? Let's get a sip and then we'll get started. That's good. Okay, let's board edit and we'll see what we got here. Okay, now the next chapter that we're going to be getting into is called both attack and initiative. It's called targets and defense. So targets and defense. Um, Both attacks and initiatives are fueled by targets. But for the defender, a target means something else. It's sort of a counterattack, counterplay. A target is the difference between activity and passive resistance. That's the choice black faces in the next example, as often happens. Passive defense is losing defense. All right. Let's get this set up. This is an end game, so we're getting towards an end game setup here. We like end games. White has a basic winning plan of bringing his king to the queen side. Oops, sorry. A little bit too. I didn't make it into a study yet, so gotta bear with me on that. A little too much ahead of myself there. Oh, whoa. Alright, black. There we go, black to play. Let me get a sip again and then we'll get started. White has a basic winning plan of bringing his king to the queen side. Say to basically, let's say to king c3. So, but White wants to play his king somehow over here. He wants to get his king there. Okay, and push the b pawn. A king and pass pawn generally out muscle a lone rook. It's simple. It's simple as 2 against 1. A master would see that black can stop that plan with rook e7. So rook e7 right here for black would be the idea that black would want to stop the king from infiltrating in. But would also realize that cutting off the king, that allows white to win with king to f2. So king f2 could be played. And then bishop b4, and the rook gets behind bishop the rook, sorry, b4, and then the rook would get to b2 and then support the pawn behind it. And so on. Black can only black's only chance of survival is to create a kingside target for his king. If he can pick up a pawn and there create his own pass pawn, black may be able to draw the game. A way to start is playing rook to b4, and then f4 to try to create a pass pawn. But white can anticipate that by playing f4 exclam himself. So black would play rook b4, and white would counter that with f4 exclam, which would cut off any of black's counterplay. Okay. The actual move that was played was a really nice one. It was f4 exclam. This was a really, really nice move because it starts the plan right away. If let me see here, where would if this happened right here, you'd be able to see that potentially b4, and then if the king tried to if the rook tried to move back, then the rook gets in behind and it's winning. Also, if the rook plays rook b4, c4 is an exclam move. It stops the idea of playing f4. Black themselves and trying to create a secondary, try to create a pass pawn of their own to neutralize white's pass pawn. And so so what could happen though after this is h5, king f2, g6, king e3, and then h4 exclam. Well, it could keep going to the queen side with king d3 exclam, and then after c takes d, c takes h takes g3, h takes g3. Black is slow in exploiting the targets. Like if queen rook b3, king c4, rook takes g3, and then basically b4. And it turns out that that's winning. And if you try king h5 here, that still doesn't help with queen c3. Or king c3. I don't know where I got queen c3. King c3. Rook. Whoops. Rook b8. b4, king g4, and then rook d3, exclam. And this prepares for let me see if he has it. You're probably thinking takes, right? And then you're wanting to take back with the pawn. Potentially, I'm not sure if taking with the pawn's the best. Maybe it is. I'm gonna see. I think probably taking with the rook might be better. I'll take it with the pawn. If takes with the rook, okay. He could it is okay. Yeah, taking with the pawn is best because it's really the only move that makes sense, because it holds everything together, and now black is lost. So black's lost in that move. So let's go back to the diagram and see if we can speed up black's counterplay the right way. The right way is f4 exclam for black. Then g takes, and then king f6. Both black pieces are active. King f2, now we have to get this king involved. King f5, and then king g3. Rook b6. Exclaim. And really white can't guard that pawn forever. The rook is perfectly placed. It can check on g6 or b3, and depending on the circumstances. So rook c2. Hold on, what did I do wrong? Yeah, rook c2. G6. Check. King f2. And then rook to b6. Exclaim. And there's no win for white here. If he tried white tried h3 here to shut the king out, but that doesn't really help. If king e3 trying to get the king over, then rook b3 check and exclaim at that point. Or if he tries g3 again, then again exclaim to there also. And white can only set a trap. The trap is h3 here. If king takes, let me see what was actually played. They didn't bite into that trap, so rook b3 was actually the best move. But if they did bite into the trap, it would be a mistake here because of rook c4. Exclaim at this point. And if the king, we'll say moves, we'll say to e5, then b4, exclaim again. And now it's winning for white because the king will eventually walk its way over, protect the pawn. The rook, the passed pawn ends up becoming a problem for black eventually. Okay, so b3 was played. Exclaim. There's no other tricks, and a draw was reached soon after king g3, rook b6, h5, rook c, h4, h5, sorry, h4, h5, and then rook c8, and then rook g6, and king f2, rook b6. And then a draw was agreed at this point. So this is actually an equal position. So we'll put a equal sign there. Where is that? Equal position. And how do you acquire the habits of a master? Some master talents may be automatic. Many masters simply consider better are considered better than non-masters. Bobby Fischer was not the only GM who boasted of how beautiful he thought chess moves were, basically. But most good habits of a master can be learned. So you can actually learn them. It's not like some grandmasters have said that it was all based on you have the talent or you don't have the talent. That's not actually. It helps. It helps to have a natural, familiarity with seeing it. Like there's some chess players that can look at a game and basically they memorize it and they have it in their mind. That's really, really nice to do. But some like us, we have to work, and it's a blessing. That's sometimes a blessing, not a blessing, to have a natural gift. And it was, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Josh Waiskin's grandmother who told him that talent will only take you so far. Eventually you have to put work in, and so just remember that even talent will only take you so far in chess. You have to take that talent and apply it with work. And so you can also, like a lot of the grandmasters like Alekhine and those grandmasters worked really hard they outworked their natural master opponents because they didn't have that they weren't a natural, but you can get habits that will help you if you truly love what you do in chess. Maybe the Lord hasn't given you a talent in that, but you want to acquire habits is what the author's saying. If you can take these habits and apply them to your chess training, and trust me, if you apply them probably to the field that you have a natural talent in, you probably will go further in that field as well. So, and that's why good habits can be learned. For example, you can train yourself to always look for targets by clicking through games slowly and making a note or a mental note and writing it down every time a new visible target appears. So you can go through a game. If it's a grandmaster one that you want to go over, like a player that you like, you could do that. Or if it's just maybe 1200 to 1400, 1700, all throughout there, IMs. Just when you see that a target is on pre, like maybe a piece that is not defended, you can say to yourself, that piece is not defended. I wonder if the opponent is later on going to spot that. And by you spotting that, you're learning the habits of target consciousness. Okay, note mental. Okay, visible targets appear. Positional rather than tactical. Games are more suitable for this. So sometimes when you look at a position and it looks very positional, you sometimes have to even learn positional understanding. And master games tend to be more study material because too often in amateur games, play becomes chaotic and there are simply too many targets. When you click through a game or a play over a board, look at it from white's point of view. Then when you're done, replay it from black's perspective. Regardless of who won, you should be able to make target searches part of your routine. So you need to basically, if you have a game like maybe a knight 2000 facing a 2000, let's say white wins. You look at it from white's perspective, and you're not done there. You're not done there. That's the author says. Then what you do is you either go, if you have a table that you go around, sit on the other side, play it from black's perspective, and see if you could see targets that black missed. And then you'll start getting target conscious, and you'll start being able to automatically make that part of your play. So you know what? It just it's one of those things that as a chess player we have to work at. So, and it's only with work that you get better. That's good. Okay, let's get back into the fray. Now the next section that we're going into, not chapter but section, is called lazy pieces. Basically pieces that aren't in play. Looking for targets is most important of the good habits for masters. The second most important is a master makes his pieces work harder. Books and teachers are always telling novice players to put your pieces on good squares and things will happen to them. Basically, good things will happen to them. Even in a position that seems quite equal, getting a bishop, rook, knight or rook to the right square can make a big difference in a slow game like an outpost. And we're going to be looking at a game that represents what the author is going to be talking to us about. So let's get this position set up and then we'll go over it and learn from it and see if we can make our pieces work harder than our opponents, which will earn us maybe a win, or potentially if we made a couple mistakes, maybe our pieces will make up the difference to draw the game. So you just never give up. Never give up. Keep always pushing. Ooh, drat. My pawn. I gotta put a pawn there. Never give up. Okay, dokie. Okay. Oops, almost forgot a knight. That would not have been good. So now we got everything. So far, let's just go through and make sure. Perfect. Now we got it. And it's white to play, and then we'll put it for a castle. It's just in case black castles, because last time I accidentally forgot to do that a couple times ago. But guess what? We're learning, and I do it every time now. So that as long as you take what you know and learn from it, you're a success. Okay. Make sure I have that. There we go. Looking at it from white's perspective, and onward and upward we go. Okay. Alrighty, let's see here. White to move. There is one white piece that has yet to be deployed. The bishop at F1. Ideally, what's the best square for the bishop? Okay, if you were, if you're watching this as a recording, stop right now and see if you can spot where the bishop would be good to be located. This bishop right here. This is the only piece that hasn't been deployed by white. That hasn't been developed. They call it development. I call it deployed out into the field of battle. And so just decide from here. Stop now, and you're more than welcome to come back after you've tried it. And if not, and you want to continue following along with us, we're going to start right now. All right. Let's do it to it. Hey. Masters think like that. When you open your mind that way, you'll find the master move. Hold on, did I? What you have to think about what would a master play, and where would be the best spot for the master to deploy bishop. And if you said that the bishop would be greatly deployed on c4, you were correct. Yeah, white to move. Yeah, white to move is vital. This move here is really an important move, because you'd think, wait a second, can't the queen just snap that off the board, right? You would think that would work, right? But then bishop takes knight, and then you realize after taking here that it's checkmate. So that's a really strong move. This bishop's actually off limits at this present moment. The bishop is wanting to go to b3, where it would be perfectly positioned to attack the king, and then it would also defend our king. So it'd be a wonderful deployment. And so what we have to do is basically, let me see, what would, okay, d6. d6 was played by in this line setup. And then, wait a second, hold on, did I make a, no, that should be right. Okay. Ah, gotcha. Bishop takes there, takes, and then bishop b3. There we go. This is the right move. Okay, so what actually was played here was queen takes c4. So that was right. Bishop takes f6, threatens mate on d6. I mean d7, sorry, d7 there. That threatens mate. So black could do, let me see here. It's got no protection, so potentially, just trying to think here. Bishop c6 is a potential playable, or c5 is a playable move. Queen c6 is also playable. So this potentially could be a playable move. But bishop takes g7, and then rook g8. Masters is what he says at this point. Yeah. Ah, perfect. Well, he says that masters get more out of their pieces. It is not because they have more pieces, or their pieces are smarter. They have the same pieces you have. We have the same pieces, but they get theirs to work harder. What that they find proper moves. A master isn't satisfied with a bishop that controls a nice diagonal, or a rook that dominates the open file, or a knight that occupies an outpost, a centralized outpost. Their pieces have to do something, not just look good. That's what he's saying. And this is the game that there's another game we're going to be going over that shows that it's not just a pretty position that we're looking for. we're looking into finding better, we're making our pieces work harder and earn their pay of being part of our team. We want them to be most effective for our team. The only way to do that is to put them on squares that'll help that come to pass. And that just comes with practice, and you'll improve as a chess player the more you practice with it. Oh yes, I can see your chat. What? Oh well, we're in the middle of studying. We're working on what it takes to become a chess master, and that's what we're working on right now. But yeah, that is that is good too. We'll have to look into doing some of those a little bit late, probably a little later on. But this is really good information for a chess player to improve, and I want to share it with you because I was really excited when I started reading the book. That it's so informative. It was helping me with chess improvement, so I wanted to share it with the Chess Cruncher community, our team Chess Cruncher. Let's see black to move here. Let's see castles. And then let's make this into a study. Yep. You're more than welcome to look at the studies afterwards too. Yeah, when you find a good chess book, it's like I always want to share it with our team on here because there's some really informative ones that will help take your chess play to the next level, and that's what we want to do. Okay, Doki, here we go. It's black to move. If you were to ask yourself which is black's best placed piece, what you might think about? What do you think? Yeah, good. For black, what do you think the most black's best continuation is? I mean, not continuation. Sorry, I get into that move thing. We're gonna flip the board. If you were black, if you were looking at black's position, what would you say that your best piece is, best placed piece? I'll give you a second to think about it before I continue on here. So make your decision. What piece is it? Is it the rooks? Are the rooks the best piece for black? All right, perfect. I'll give you guys I'll give you all a second to take a look at it. And also, if you're watching on the pre-recording, stop it, take your time, and just remember, it's all about studying and improving. So take your time, stop it, and then you could do it, or you could follow along with our team. I'll give you until 6:47 to make a decision, and then we'll continue onward pushing. What? Oh, so you're thinking the knight's the best piece? If you think the knight's the best piece, you are correct. The knight is the best piece. We want to actually play knight to a4 for one reason, to take advantage of c2 and b2. These are kind of the two areas that we notice that are weaker, and if we can get those kind of chomped off the board, then we'd be good to go. So one move that you'd have to spot and to guard, because if we try trading here, I'll show you. This is just a line that they were showing. A rook comes down and grabs that, so that loses. Yes, we can play rook takes here, but we lose. And then here the knight takes b7. Then what? Let me make sure I have this line correct in the notes. So knight takes knight b3. What they actually said was knight b. Knight b3 is and so then the knight basically jams up the position. So and then eventually what's going to happen is this rook's going to grab one of our vital pawns, the d6 pawn, which is our pawn that is our only pawn that can break. Well, you wouldn't want to you wouldn't want really that to happen, because you then have rook takes c2 at this point, and I think black's better at this point. This is a much better continuation. If the rook comes up, which the rook can't come up, so the queen basically would have to play something like this here, and you really wouldn't want like something like that. If knight takes, then you have a pin, and it's not fun. You don't want this type of mess. Queen g4. Okay. Something similar to that. I'm thinking that it's something similar, but you get the drift about that. The reason now why the knight plays here is to stop any of that mess that would arise, and so he just shuts down the position. I think why it is, yeah. So the way to relieve all that attack, like what you just said about after queen g4, the bishop just retreats back, and this is actually an exclam move. This is the best continuation for black, because the bishop guards the d6 pawn, which is a vital point for us, and it also now renews the threat of knight a4 and into attacking. So, and then the rooks can come in, and it's just good for us at that point. The bishop looks nice back here. It looked nice on g5, but remember, we want our pieces to do work, and it was just looking pretty on g5. It wasn't really doing anything. And so bishop e7 is more, it's putting it to work. Yes, it's retreating it back, but sometimes I've noticed in some of the games of the AlphaZero and all those engines that they're not afraid for retreating moves. This is a retreating attacking move, because this now frees the queen up to start an onslaught on the queen side of the board, and the bishop frees that up. Yeah, it is anti. If you think about it, it is. But remember, if you've seen like what you just saw as the continuation with queen coming after all this queen to g4, a way to solve all that problem so that after all that combination there's no bishop on g5, and it solves everything. If you think about it, the bishop moving back solves it all. Not f4, sorry, the bishop on g5. Yeah, bishop on f4, yeah. And so that was a really interesting. And so now the idea of knight to a4 can be played with threat at this point. So the rook comes up to d3, rook d3, and then the knight comes in with our idea, exclam, and then knight d1. This holds. The idea is it's holding the pawn on b2, and then queen goes to c7, exclam. Remember, we've noticed there's a target, right? If we go back to our prior lessons, we would see that target conscious. The one piece that's loose is the knight on a5, and the pawn on c2. So if you put those two ideas together, yeah, basically it can be. There could be a, remember, the whole idea is maximizing in chess is to maximize your piece's effectiveness. When the bishop was on g5, your bishop was doing some work, but it wasn't doing its job of helping the kingdom out. And sometimes sending a piece back to the outpost, or maybe just to defend a tower in the medieval times is important. That tower may be a point that turns the tide in a battle or a game. And so our little tower would be our pawn on d6. And you know what? It's better to have it defending than just sitting out there doing nothing. And that's kind of what the author's trying to get us to realize, is that. Yeah, that's true. It is, but you know what? Train yourself and make good habits of looking for targets. Like that's what Black noticed, was that this knight and this pawn is on pre. And so let me see here. Okay. All right. Queen g4, and now we have to. The threat now is winning a pawn here. So White even noticed a continuation, that there was a pawn on pre that could be used as a target. So White has two targets, and the next idea is to bring a rook over and then threaten mate. So every move, even Grandmaster Maurice Ashley talked about it, it's the Aikido principle in chess. Every move has a drawback. And so if you notice that, so that's the whole thing. And so then the rook comes up. Well, maybe we'll have to look at that. We might do it on chess.com. I might do maybe a 5-minute one just to see how we do. And then rook g3, like what we talked about. Bishop f8 to guard 2 points. Now this bishop's working hard. It's earning its keep. And now knight to b3, and then finally the queen gets to jump in and grab a pawn. Let's see how we're doing for time really quick. Perfect. Okay. We'll do one more. Okay. Oops, I have to redo a edit board editor. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get this put in right. Oops, I'm on. Work with me. Knight, bishop, queen. Oops, I missed one rook. Okay, it's black to move here. I'll get there's a little section beforehand before we start, and so I have to put in the game's name for you, so that I hope it's that you can look it up and see the entire game, but we're just going to go over a small section of the game. Well, this is an older game. Let me make sure I have this right. Perfect. Okay, good. Alright. Nice. Okay, and then we're looking at it from black's perspective. So we're going to start off as black. There we go. Okay, this is what it says. Moving the section is moving the furniture, basically, like the pieces. Because there are so many unoccupied and safe squares in a typical middle game, it stands to reason that the right square for the right piece may be unavailable because it belongs to another. Basically, you might need to move a piece around to relocate a piece to get a better piece to the square. To make pieces work harder, a master arranges them. He moves the furniture around, as he says, often with surprising strength and effect. So basically, if we wanted a bishop to be there on d5, we potentially would want to move the knight, maybe something like this, and then move the bishop there, and then we may be able to get a more effective type of setup. So that's kind of what he's talking about. Each black piece appears well placed. His knight is splendidly centralized. His bishop controls several key squares. His queen and rook command open files. But black realized that his pieces don't have targets, so there's no targets here. If his rook infiltrates onto c7, it it doesn't. It wouldn't be able to because the queen's guarding that square. So it can't. It wants to get there. Then it would have targets to attack, but sadly no. And we would want somehow to get our pawn to g5, g4, and potentially try to kick this knight out and bring the queen in and start an idea. But we can't really do that because we don't have pieces that are working to their fullest. They're good pieces, they look good, they're doing some work, but we need to make them work even harder. And so that's why the move that we just talked about back here, knight to f6 exclam, is a strong move. What we are wanting to do is relocate our bishop to d5, relocate the bishop to d5 if we could, and then we'd get our pieces into optimum placement. Because if we notice, if you notice, as the board foretells, that a lot of the material is away from the king, so there's really only two pieces that are protecting the king here. It's a knight and a king. All the other pieces are not protecting the king. The rook on e1 isn't doing really much to protect the king yet, and the knight that's on e5 isn't doing much. And so white's pawns are under fire on both wings, and so things don't appear to change much after rook a d1. Oops, rook a c1, not d1. Rook a c1. But then we realize, remember the idea? Bishop e4 exclam. This is the idea. We don't really even much mind if they exchange off rooks, because if they did exchange rooks off, we would take back and then control unchallenged the whole c file, which would be wonderful for us. That'd be a strong move. It's hard to search, he says, for a reply for the bishop coming to d5. What was actually played was knight to g5 here. This is what was the continuation. Let me see, what could white play here? I'm trying to think. They were saying that potentially a3 might be an idea. Then bishop d5, bishop d5, queen a4, which is a dubious. It's actually a very dubious move. You got to do it though, but because your queen's under attack. d6 to attack the knight, and then knight c4. And then queen c7, which is an exclam here. This is just crushing basically, because now you have the opportunity of playing potentially b4, b5, or a6, b5 type of stuff, and that's really strong. So g5, then bishop d5, which is, if you have an idea, my grandmaster teacher taught me that you want to keep with your plan as long as it doesn't ruin your position. If it ruins your position, okay, don't play it. But if it doesn't ruin your position and it's part of your plan, keep going with it. Okay. Queen h4. Oops, not a4. Queen h4. Black played rook takes c1. There's also another line that could be played. Bishop takes e2. Rook a1. Or Queen b4 could potentially be played. This would be a type of a mistake, though. This would actually be a mistake here, because you'd have to spot that knight takes d7 is an exclam move. And of course, we find out if knight takes, which is a mistake, actually a blunder. This would be a blunder. They only have one question mark, so that's actually a blunder. So that's why rook takes c1, keeps all the pieces in contact, gets rid of a protector of the knight. Rook takes c1, and then h6 to attack the knight at this point. Uh-oh. I want to make sure I didn't do this. Did I do this right? Yeah, good. Still good. Okay. I kind of got concerned there. I thought I might have moved the wrong way. Okay. G6, and just cries to be played, I know. Then queen e8. Knight takes f8. Pawn takes the knight. Rook c7. And then queen takes f8. Rook takes a7 at this point, and the material is roughly equal here. But as often when the queens remain on the board, a rook is no match for two minor pieces. Because the queen works more effectively with the knight or the bishop than just a lone rook. And so what we actually play here is queen b8 exclam. And this sets up that rook has to retreat back to a3. Queen f4. Now we're threatening to checkmate our opponent. Queen e3. And we don't want to trade. Remember, in this situation, if we traded, white would actually be better here. So we actually just go back. We're threatening mate again on b1. Rook c3. And the idea is if check here, then the rook would come and block. So that's one idea. We go for it anyways because we get to pick up a pawn target conscious. Rook c1, and then queen takes b2. Queen takes g5, and then queen takes a2. And now, but the real winning move was actually, let me see here. Back all the way here. He was talking about the real winning move at this point from the start of the setup was here. Knight f6 was a winning move here. That was what started the whole continuation of this move. Okay, I promised we would do, let me see, what time is it? Perfect. We'll do one. I promised that we would do 1 5-minute just puzzle rush, and then I gotta say adieu on that. I'll do my best. I haven't done these in a while. Oops, mate. Ah, come on. Mate. One's piece. checkmate. Let's see here. Let me see here. Ah, okay, let's see here. Okay. Ah, we'll call it on that. Okay. That wasn't too bad. Haven't done one of those times in a while. So that wasn't too bad. 5 minutes, 26, not bad. Okay, I think we'll call it on this. We'll go over the one we made a mistake on, the 2, and then I gotta say adieu. There we go. I missed that one. I knew it was something to do with the rook. I just didn't know if I needed to take first. I'm thinking that potentially bishop. Nope, so it wasn't bishop. Was it rook? Ah, it's rook. Okay. Because rook takes there, and then you can drop a discovery on the queen. Alright. Perfect. We'll call it there. Alrighty. I will say adieu on that. Thank you all for logging on, participating. I haven't done a 5-minute one in a while, but we have to remember we're going to do a small wrap up, and then I'll log off. And the wrap up is what we can take from what we learned, is that you have to make your pieces work as hard as they can, even if they look like they're on the best squares. See if the piece can actually do a little bit more. Like when we retreated that bishop back to e7, it didn't look like a human move, but it was the best move because it got out of a lot of problems, it kept a lot of defense, and it allowed us to implement our plan by stopping our opponent's plan at the same time. Also, remember that you can, like what we talked about, is sometimes natural talent it could be a gift, a blessing, and a curse at the same time sometimes, because when you have that ability of learning really fast in the area that the Lord's called you in, you can like just take that information. You take it sometimes for granted that you can actually assume get that much information to hold on to it. So remember to not take that for granted. And those who love chess and want to do good in it, keep good habits of target consciousness, make your pieces work harder, and remember, move the furniture. Remember, though, it all comes down to choices, and the choice to receive the Lord Jesus, Lord and Savior of your life, is important, and it's as important as a move on the board. And just remember to keep push and play. Remember what Bruce Lee said also, is that take what you know, be willing to apply it, and always do something with it. And the Chess Cruncher, that's why the Chess Cruncher motto is, and Team Chess Cruncher motto is in place, is we hang up our coats, we hang up our hats, we sit down and study when most won't. Team Chess Cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says, serve the Lord Jesus. And as I say, God bless. I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening. Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. We'll keep going over, learning, and improving, and keep pushing forward. And always 2 thumbs up. Remember, though, what Hannibal Smith said. Even inside of a random position that looks random, there's always a plan. And when we find it, we get to say, I love it when a plan comes together. 2 thumbs up. Hoorah, be blessed. I will see you tomorrow. And keep having fun. The Chess Cruncher, Team Chess Cruncher way. Hoorah, go Team Chess Cruncher. Be blessed. Bye-bye.